You're listening to Inside the Mix, Episode 2. Welcome to the Inside the Mix podcast. I'm your host, Mark Matthews, and I'm excited to have you here with me today. Whether you're a synth music producer, artist, or enthusiast, I promise you'll get something out of this show. Every fortnight, I serve up interviews with synth music artists and provide you with an insight into their careers, creative processes, influences, and music industry tips and stories. Let's dive in. In today's episode, I'm joined by Tony Fitz, a friend of mine from my days studying an MSc in music engineering and production at the University of South Wales. Fitz is a multi-instrumentalist, singer-songwriter and creative based in Newport. So, without further ado, let's dive in.
Yes, Mark, how are you doing? I'm all right, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's been a long time, hasn't it? A long time.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I spoke to you. Probably, it's got to be like 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, Christ, really?
I think it's got to be. It's got to be. Go? I know. I think I had a memory come up on my phone, which was Berlin. Berlin was 4 years ago.
What?
Yeah.
Life-changing moments.
Tell me about it.
Go down in history, that did, mate.
Yeah, right. That was a great trip, though. That was I thoroughly enjoyed that trip. Same. That trip, man.
What was your favourite part?
Oh, I'd say Hansa Museum was good. You remember going to Hansa?
Yeah.
Hansa,
I think that's what I would say. When we were all stood in the in the control room listening to heroes play through the monitors, there was something else.
Yeah. And if I remember, we went into the live room, but I can't remember. Were we not allowed to touch anything in the live room? Or did somebody play a piano? Somebody played a piano.
Right, yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. He used to run the SU bar. SU bar, the open mic night in there, I think.
I can't remember, mate.
To
be fair, I was half asleep. When we got there. I think we walked across the best part of Berlin that day.
Yeah, it was miles, I remember. It was just to get to anywhere, wasn't it? It was a good 20-minute, half an hour, 40-minute walk.
Yeah. And when we were positioned as well in that, in the hostel thing we were staying in, was like, there was nothing around there. You had the main station, but Christ.
That's it.
I need to get
the
back.
Other side of town.
yeah, man. I need to go back. there.
That would be nice. Yeah.
So how are you anyway? But I'll let you know. It is recording. I just said it's recorded straight from the off.
Sure. Yeah.
How are you doing anyway? So what are you up to these days?
Well, it's, to be honest, it doesn't feel like 4 years, only because in that time we've just been trying to sort out a regular job, a decent stable job.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's taken me to until now to get to this kind of space where I'm like inside my room now, where I've got like enough space to breathe while I'm being creative.
Yeah. I know that.
So yeah, I mean, with that being the case, I mean, it's just. Well, yeah, I mean, to keep it simple, I've been trying to sort out a job. I mean, I've flitted between a couple of different jobs. I should have just committed while I was in uni, mate. I should have wrote that smash hit when I was in masters, and just like...
hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Honestly, if I could go back, but there we are, it's all right. I mean, what do they say? Not to rush, can't rush things.
Yeah, totally, man. Perseverance as well. Got to keep at it. Persevere.
Yeah.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah, totally.
Are you still in South Wales?
I am in South Wales, yeah. I mean, I don't think... I've got no plans to rush off anywhere. Been here 11 years now. And,
is it really? Wow.
Yeah. I can't believe it. It's like part of the reason why we get onto the music in a bit, what we'll talk. Well, part of the reason when the motivation is realizing is that I woke up and realized, Christ, I'm 33. I better do something.
Yeah. I'm totally the same, mate. I had that sort of that thought process. That's why I went into the teaching game like 2 or 3 years ago. I was like, well, I'll get that under my belt. That gives me plan A, as it were, and then I'll do all the music stuff as well, And this is where I find myself now, which is what I've been able to in the last year. Once I've got that solid foundation, been able to actually start cracking on and releasing stuff and
Yeah.
starting a podcast and whatnot. But
yeah, no, it's been massively inspiring to see you get your ball rolling, especially with with your releases and
cheers, man.
your producing tips online. Honestly, I mean, to be honest with you, it's almost like maybe there's a few of us that kind of went through similar things. We went through uni, it was a bit quiet for a little bit, and then before you know it, everyone's popping up at the same time, it's great to see.
Yeah, it's all about. For me, because I've been in the band before and stuff, so I knew how long it was going to take to start to get any traction. Start from scratch is so hard, just even now. I mean, it's still like really early days, but just not getting disheartened and just. They call it the compound effect. I've been reading up on so much business stuff, and it's all about doing those little things. Just keep doing them and keep doing it and keep doing it, and then eventually those dominoes, the bigger ones, you start with the small ones, and the bigger ones will fall thereafter. And that's the thought process I keep going with, and it seems to be working. But persevere with the music, mate. The way I saw it was when I was writing like last year. And I'm very much a perfectionist, and I was like, no, I can't release it until it's finished. Can't do it. And then it got to the point where I was like, no, fuck it, it's going out. I'm releasing it. It's got to go. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit on it for ages. And I listened to some of the tracks back now, and I'm like, I suck my teeth. I'm like, oh, I could change this, I could change that, but just write, mate, and just release it. Just get it out. Yeah. That's what I would say.
I think one of the major sort of personal kind of things, like you say, is getting over the expectations of who you potentially might be playing to. I mean, I've only got a small following on my Instagram, what I'm trying to do is, I think, having made all the wrong mistakes previously, this time around it's about that authenticity and just trying to build it up something where people, I don't know, could either relate to it or enjoy it, at least just enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think just make music that you want to make. I think it's clear. I know it sounds quite cliche to say it, but that is what it is,
isn't it? It's hard. It's hard to actually do that. Because I think ultimately it comes down to a little bit of letting your guard down, and being able to go fearlessly into a realm of making music. I mean, ultimately being a songwriter, it's always difficult to really, really put your heart on your sleeve and just go, this is exactly what I'm feeling right now, and this is how I'm going to say it. And then you're second guessing it, being a lyric writer and editor. I mean, obviously editing is never ending until you record the song, but to be fearless and just to say what it is that's on your heart or what on your mind, and to be able to do that. I mean, I think it's I don't know, for me personally, it's been a bit of a journey, a struggle and a journey to get to.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. I mean, I think I come at it from a slightly different angle. With me, I'm very much of like my sound design. So it's kind of a similar thing. So I would say sort of like 8 out of 10 sounds that are on a single that I released the sounds are all designed by me. And and it is what I think sounds good at that moment. And I'm like, it's kind of weird. I'm like, I'm not trying to make a sound that already exists. It's like a sound that represents what's in my head and what I want to hear. It's kind of hard. It's kind of weird to explain. It's not a conventional sound. I don't follow like tutorials online that say, right, this is how you make a pad. This is how you make an ARP. It's kind of like, well, I'm just going to mess with put these things together and see what it sounds like in the end. Yeah, there are bits and pieces that are in there, and I'm like, actually, I do need an ARP and I do need a pad, but. Yeah, that was the key word from when I was at uni. It was authenticity. That was it. That was drilled into me.
It haunts me, mate.
Authenticity. What makes you authentic?
Fucking haunts me, man. Honestly.
Yeah.
Sorry, swearing like that. No, honestly, it haunts me. Authentic. What is authentic? What is authenticity at the end of the day? But then that's the ultimate. That's the I don't know. That's the crux of it, isn't it?
Yeah, what is authentic? I think I wrote a whole paper on it, and at the end of it, I still was like, I don't really know, to be honest. I just wrote 4,000 words and some random. I think I did it on Nirvana or something. I can't remember. Random.
Oh man.
So what I'll do is sort of like introduction wise. So for those listening, this is I'm talking to Fitz. So Fitz, I met when I was doing my master's degree in the University of South Wales a number of years ago, as you probably know now, having listened to the first ramble that we've just been through. So you consider yourself I guess, would it be a singer-songwriter, or do you categorize yourself?
Yeah, I find it really difficult to explain and categorize myself. So yeah, singer-songwriter is like, I'm just in the process of getting to a place where I'm producing my own sound and having the confidence to release it out to the public properly.
Yeah. Cool. Guitarist?
Yeah, guitarist, a little bit of keys, quite a little bit of experience on electronic music production, bashing samples about and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool. So, first question, it's always the $1 million question. What brought you to music? What influenced you? What was that defining moment that made you think, actually, you know what? I want to start writing music. I want to pursue this.
Okay, yeah, it was my mum. It was my mum was she was a rocker. She is a rocker, full on hippie. Like, she's the crazy lady of the town. So like when I was a kid growing up, there used to be every Sunday there used to be a long line of motorbikes outside the front, and she'd have lots of friends round, and there'd be the guitars going on and food being cooked in the kitchen and that kind of like communal atmosphere, rockers and bikers. Yeah, so heavy metal like blaring out the speakers and that kind of thing. And so when I was about 6, my mum's friend at the time, and never forget his name, Polish fella, his name, Polish fella he was, but he handed me a Fender Strat, a red one, and he showed me 4 chords. And it was from that moment I knew that I'd learned something brand new. I mean, I knew that I'd been given something really, really fresh, like to learn music and put those 4 chords together. And see, at the time, the chords I learned was like G, E minor, C, and
I was just about to say C major. That's always thrown in there. Classic first chord, C major. Yeah. So put those together, you've got your typical shoe up kind of thing. And it's like 6 years of age getting onto that. I was like, wow, I've really got something here. You can play some status quo. Status quo only use like two or three chords, isn't it? That's probably a sweeping statement for status quo fans, but I'm fairly certain do you use two or three chords.
That's it, yeah. And it was things like that, which was it was sayings like that were floating around me when I was younger. AC/DC as well.
Yeah.
And it was all these older fellas saying things like that. It made me think, oh, surely it can't be too hard. So it was about 6, and I played the guitar, and then my mum bought me a little acoustic, a little 3/4 size acoustic. So I was tinkering around with that. But when I was around about 8 or 9, I got the keyboard, and there was a demo button on the keyboard, and I think it was a Mozart piece or something. And
I remember those. Yeah. Was that a Yamaha keyboard by any chance?
I think it was. It was really small.
Yeah.
And I think it was at that time I just said, do you know what? I'm going to make a symphony like that one day. I don't know. I'm going to go for it. That's what I wanted. And from my heart, always, I knew that I wanted to write music then. Just that since then, life was, I wouldn't say got in the way. It's got involved. Life got involved, and it's had to be involved.
You take on responsibilities and commitments, and that's what happens, isn't it? Yeah. It's, as you say, life happens. I think in the way they explain it, life happens. Okay, cool, man. So if you were to define the spirit of your music, how would you define? That's another tricky question. But how would you define the spirit of your music? I suppose it depends, I guess, on the song or the record itself. I don't know.
I was going to say that. Yeah, basically, it changes. If I want to write a record because I'm angry, or want to write a song because I'm angry, then that would be probably the energy of that track. But I was, if what defines my spirit as a musician is the 90s. It's the grunge and the rave scene. It's the sort of, and the spillover from the 80s power ballad kind of electro,
mate, don't get me started on power ballads. I love a power ballad. Yeah.
Yes, there we are. That's it. So love a heart wrencher,
Yeah. Cool. So, cultural influences. Do you have I suppose it kind of ties in a bit with defining the spirit of your music, I guess. But cultural influences. Would you say you have any sort of cultural influences in the way you write or the way you perform, maybe?
Yeah, interesting. You know, on that whole search, as we mentioned at the beginning, whole search for authenticity, I think I've done so much close watching of the 90s grunge and the indie scene and the kind of the Britpop scene in particular.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was that was so authentic at the time. And as you look back and I think, fair play, you know, that was an amazing time. But I feel like I didn't really get out until I was mid-teen, 16. And then when I was 16, I was running wild into raving and all that at that time. And so the rock and the indie thing is really up until 16 years of age, and then paused until I was 23. And then that's when I started to go back into my own, you know, into my rock music and things like that, as I was playing the guitar more.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I kind of went through a similar phase. I mean, when I started playing guitar, for those who don't know, I'm a guitarist, and I started playing probably when I was about 13. And then I went through various phases. I went through, like, in my teens, I went through like a hip hop phase. I thoroughly enjoyed my hip hop. I still say it's like Dre 2001 is one of my all-time favorite albums, man. Like the production,
Doggy
just
Style
everything.
was out as well.
What's that?
Yeah. Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style was out at the same time, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember.
Love it. And then I went through my sort of Dre, Tupac, Eminem phase. I went all through that.
Oh yes.
Then I came out the other end, and then I found like rock, and then I went into metal, then I went to new metal, death metal. I just went down this metal rabbit hole. But I've always had sort of like the 80s synth thing sort of like lurking in the background, which is something I've always been interested in. But I think it's part of a musical journey. You do generally go through these various phases, and I think those phases when you're growing up are quite important as well, because they're going to influence you in your styles later on, specifically in your teens, because when you're in your teens and you're finding out who you are in the world, you know, and you're going through all this different music, and it plays that part on you. Still listen to a lot 100%. Of that now. Yeah.
So, it's hard to find music. I mean, I might be showing my age now, but it's hard to find music which is moving in the sense that it was in the 90s. I mean, I don't know, there was something about, maybe I'm not doing enough looking into music. Maybe I'm not, but I think, well, yeah, I don't know. Let that one go. I could be just spilling opinions about music, and which basically is showing my age. You know what I mean?
No, but go for it. No, opinions are good. Opinions are good. I think when you get on the subject of modern pop music, you could quite easily go down a rabbit hole of, once again, coming back to the key word of authenticity. You could quite easily go down that rabbit hole of like,
this is it.
I find a lot of it quite disingenuous, I think. And that might be quite a sweeping statement. Once again, I'm full of those, but quite disingenuous.
I kind of feel what you're saying. I do. I mean, there's one or two pop artists that when, you know, they stick out and it's like, oh, okay. But I think it's still the sort of the machine in itself. Mm-hmm. You can tell that it's slapped onto these people, and as great as they are, and as much as I admire the way that they sort of like really give it to the camera and their performances as well, and the way that they interact in this new way of interacting with your crowd on a more intimate level through social media. I think it's all very inspiring, but at the same time, that begs the question, like you say, and where, you know, when a formula gets inside your veins and you can't help it, you know, I find that becomes your pigeonhole in a sense. That becomes your box or your perch, your known territory. And if I think upon the artists I've been most influenced by are the artists that switched and changed. Their from one single it wasn't expected, the next sound. And that happened a lot in the 90s, whereas as now it doesn't really happen so much in artists.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think when it comes to reinventing, well, not necessarily reinventing your sound, but experimenting. That's why when you listen to certain genres and you get certain artists, sort of like the metal genre is quite well known for this. It's like if an artist puts out a song and it's like different to what they usually do, you'll get a lot of It's quite divisive. I'm all for people experimenting with sound. It's like, why keep putting out the same thing? If it's your bread and butter, it's what you earn, it's how you make your money and stuff like that, and you want to continue doing that, then fantastic, and you want to appeal to that particular audience, then great. But
that's
I think
fair, yeah.
I'm all for like trying different things and like experimenting and stuff like that, and I applaud anyone who does it. I get what you're saying. I think now you could almost I don't know. I don't know if it is anymore, but I think a few years ago when certain TV shows were at the height of their fame, it was very much a conveyor belt of artists. TV shows I won't name for right now. But yeah, a conveyor belt is the way I saw it. It's a packaged product.
Absolutely.
It comes out the other end. But yeah. So I guess like I mentioned cultural influences that define you. So references like where, for example, when I'm writing something and I get a bit of writer's block, I will generally go online and there's a particular directory of like samples, and I'll go and try and find a sample, and it generally inspires me, or I listen to music, a certain song to write. What sort of processes do you follow?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for every song. You know, could be just playing a bunch of chords, and or another one could be a one-line lyric or something like that, or top down, a good title, sound of a good title is always a good place to start. But in terms of references, I've kind of picked up my rap, my rap and rock sort of skills from Mike Patton and Tupac. Yeah, Tupac's got that intricate flows that sort of like internally rhyme with each other. Yeah. And then what I love is Mike Patton's extravagance and that full-on sort of theatrical, get it in your face kind of, this is it right now for a moment. And I think one of the most freeing things was for me to find out the Epic. I think he was 32 or 33, just past over 30.
When they wrote Epic?
I'm not sure when he wrote it, but I think I watched an interview when he was released it.
Okay.
But it, at 30s, because in one of his other songs on the same album, he mentions about a midlife crisis.
That's a great album. Like I cannot remember the name of that album, and it's going to really bug me. But it's a fantastic album. Faith No More, isn't it? And I cannot remember that album. It's fantastic.
And the thing is when I was a kid and I was being blasted in the house, I was unaware of it, and then later on, as I've come back to it, and I just thought, like, what I love about Faith No More is that eclectic, the musicality in there. He's Mike Patton's influenced by so many different styles of music, and you can tell that within, although it's metal and the sound of it is metal, the way that it breaks into half times and other sort of like Latino salsa style beats, and it's musically I just find really energetic, amazing. So that was the rap kind of thing. In terms of like the rock and the pop and the more, it's got to be like going into Anthony Kiedis and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yep. But when it comes to the pop world, I mean, this is no cliche here. Like David Bowie just blows. If you want to try and do something which is pop orientated, which I genuinely love. I genuinely love a bit of pop music. Yeah. But you can't. I just find that what Bowie does is just incredible. So yeah, he's a massive. I just love the way he sounds in his voice. Is probably the most authentic a British man could possibly sound, I think. With the tone that he's got, and it's hard to explain, but I just find it very inspiring. Like so.
That's cool, mate. Go back to the Chili Peppers. What Chili Pepper album would be your favourite Chili Pepper album?
Yeah, by the way, it's just iconic for my 16th.
Yeah, 16, 15, I was going to say the exact same album. I remember listening to By the Way, travelling from Taunton to Saunton and Croyd, and attempting to surf at the other end with some mates. By the Way, fantastic album. Yeah.
Oh, it's great album.
Yeah.
Each song after song is like uplifting. It's nostalgic now.
I'm looking at the CDs behind me to see if I've got Oh, I know, it's probably up there somewhere. Well, I've got Spotify. I didn't even know why I'm looking at my CDs, man. I could just listen to it on Spotify.
I was just thinking this as well. Like, we were scrolling on Facebook and I saw a meme and it said, "Hands up if your music collection was like this." And it was a picture of somebody's tape cassettes, all like in a wooden box. And I thought to myself, maybe that's why I don't listen to enough music anymore, is because the tangible effect of having music meant that putting it on was an experience. I mean, like for me, I can't stand to listen to Spotify on my mobile phone. So downstairs when I'm cooking in the kitchen and I don't have a speaker yet, like there's certain times when I'm thinking I don't really have access to the music because I refuse to listen to it on my iPhone, So the internet's about, I don't know, consumer music is a bit different as well. Well, obviously we know it's a lot different than what it used to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's an interesting point you raised, because I had a chat with the episode 1 of this podcast with Zach Vortex, and we said the exact same thing, because he releases tapes, actual cassette tapes for his music, and cassette tapes in the synth music arena are really, really popular. So a lot of people release their tracks on cassette tapes, and he's collecting them. And we had this exact same discussion whereby I said I listen to Spotify, but unless it's a new album from an artist that I'm a massive fan of, I won't listen to the whole album as one. I'll go to my light songs and I'll put it on shuffle. And it's like you say, when you have like CDs, like I've got back here, you actually put on the CD and you listen to an album the way it was designed to be listened to. They put it in a particular order because that's the way it's been designed. And you don't get that. Well, I suppose if you listen to the album on Spotify, you would. But yeah, you lose that experience.
Definitely. 100%. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I bought a CD. I'd love to know what was the last one I bought. No. I got a feeling I know what it was. I think it was a metal band called Silosis. I think that's what it was. Or it might be, probably some heavy metal. I imagine it was. Yeah, no, me. So yeah, influences. So I think we touched on it a bit earlier. So we'll go into like background. So musical background, you mentioned that earlier. So you're a guitarist. We discussed the whole university side of things. So guitar wise, self-taught. Yeah.
I mean, I've had a couple of. Growing up, it was always about learning your favorite song. It was never about the technical side of the guitar for me. It was always like, can you play this song? Can you teach how to play that song? So it was only when I got to university actually that I knocked about with another guitarist who I would call a guitarist. I mean, it's nice to say I'm a guitarist, and I do know a lot of the chords. I can put chords together, but my music theory knowledge isn't amazing. But anyway, when they went to uni, I knocked with a guitarist and he was amazing. And he taught me one or two things just about technique. So I tend to teach myself and pick things up along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I was self-taught up until I was probably about 20, 21. And then I went into a studio to record an EP. And being metal, obviously, it's got to be, as with any music, really, it's got to be like your technique has to be spot on. Sure. I had so much string noise, like pressing down on the fretboard too hard, and I was like, oh man, I really need to go and have lessons. And I went and saw a guitarist, guitar teacher. So shout out to Dan Baker, fantastic teacher I had. And he basically looked at my technique. He asked me to play a song, and I played it, and he's like, you're gonna have to sort that out. And muscle memory, trying to undo that after like 8 years of piss poor playing.
Yeah. But no, that's one of the things. I think when you get into heavy metal music as a musician, I think there's a certain level of dexterity or nimble fingers. Being able to play that fast, which gets you into more heavy metal more so. I'm not, I think. Because I remember when I was teaching over in Bristol, and I was teaching like 17-year-old lads, and they didn't really, they were amazing lads, so sort of like polite and timid, if you might say. Get him on that fretboard, and he's so nimble up and down. He's shredding it. He's got the Ibanez, amazing sort of blue and green, that the famous model Ibanez, and it made me really think to myself, I'm not a guitarist. I just put chords together and try to sing a song over it, But Yeah, it's interesting, the heavy metal, because it is intricate. It's very sort of numbers.
Totally.
Yeah.
But once again, I think when it comes back to songwriting, though, I mean, are you ever a master of your instrument? I don't think you are, and like, I don't think anyone's ever.
I'll take that.
Yeah. In general, I'm certainly not by any stretch, but I don't think I've mastered any instrument. And it's also when it comes to like production as well. Like, you never stop learning. You never stop learning how to, like, when you're mixing, mastering, producing, or anything like that. And I think anybody who says they have mastered it is probably a liar. Yeah,
that's the joy of music, isn't it? It doesn't appear, it's never ending.
And also on that note as well, I think if you are so inclined to wait for that moment where you think, actually, I'm good enough, I think you're wasting valuable time. Just get something out, man. Just start recording. This is what I've learned in the last year. It's just a case of just start recording, release stuff, like talk to people, get influence, like network, collaborate with people, and it's so much better that way rather than just wait until you think you're good enough, because you're always your harshest critic, I think. I certainly am.
I absolutely, totally agree with you. Yeah, I mean, the reason why having a smaller studio space and not getting the sound that I want, not being able to confidently sing the way that I want, and all the reasons of getting into this space now. I mean, I wish I was releasing music earlier, but at the same time, I'm kind of, not to have rushed things. I think I've got some amazing advice up on the process of coming across the word authenticity. It was stop releasing all of your short ideas online and give yourself some artistic integrity, and when finish something that's nice, and when you're happy and you can really stand behind it, you can promote it properly. And I think that because that advice and the whole authenticity experience just it stunned me, but also put me on a well-needed pause for me to be able to process everything that I'd learned and taken on at the time. Also tackle in with these new responsibilities of life. And now that everything's settled, I just feel like in a position where, like, I'm ready to start giving back from all what I've been able to take from learning so much for so long. Around amazing people, like.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, mate. Yeah, it's good to hear that you're writing and you're going to be releasing. Yeah.
Do you know what? Honestly, Mark, I have not stopped writing. I really haven't stopped writing since leaving, and it's always been
continuous
that quest
throughout. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been scribbling on, like thinking, come on, we're going to get there. So, and I think learning to sort of take a breath and go under for a little bit it's been good. You get to put some roots down and some authentic.
I think you're exactly right. I sort of did a similar thing. I think when I was in the band, this is before I moved to Wales, and I quit that. I've been in the band for 8 years or so, and like I wouldn't exchange it for anything. I had like the best time. I made some of like my best friends through it as well. I met some fantastic people, but all things that are good, you generally come to an end. And I sort of then took so many years out of writing. I didn't really write anything when I was at uni because it was more focused on the production sort of side of things when I was doing my masters. And I took probably a good 3 or 4 years out of actually just not writing anything, and then just came out the other side thinking, right, I feel ready to do it now. Yeah. And having that time off to regather and then figure out, actually, you know what? I think I know what sort of stuff I want to release now.
Yeah.
Taking that time, as much as it probably contradicts what I said earlier about just release music if you have it. It's finding that happy balance between the two. Yeah. It's constant. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, you've got to be comfortable with what it is you're putting out there. You don't want to put something out there and be sorry about it. Yeah. If you say, but at the same time, don't let. I think another meme, like the world of memes now, something about that. Something about, being a perfectionist is about. I resonated with this quite a lot. Being a perfectionist is a bit about being scared of being judged. And I think that one of the things that makes you authentic is when you can stand in your own truth, whether that's hyper-inflated truth, but your own artistic truth, should we say? When you can stand in your own artistic truth and you stand there strong, then it will come across authentic. But if you can't, as opposed to if you couldn't stand. If you don't quite believe in what it is that you're saying, then it's going to come out that way.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You need to back whatever you put out. I mean, you need to. I think that's also where the integrity comes in, doesn't it? And the integrity comes with that. Yeah, you certainly got to back it, because no matter what happens, you're always going to get people who not everyone's going to like what you do ultimately.
There's the critics, you know, ever ready, aren't they? You know.
I had something along those lines. So the first track I released last year, "Waiting on Your Call." Now going back to what I said earlier about getting influence from samples and stuff. So this was my first dabble into like releasing synth-based music. So I went on a website and got this sample which I used in the song. So released the track. And this is the problem with using sample banks. So I release it and I put it out there and I put it on these various groups and stuff. And then it transpires that the song sample had been used by another artist and released as well. So straight away I put it out there, and the immediate feedback, you're ripping off XYZ. And like you got to be,
nice.
Yeah, you got to be pretty thick-skinned. To which I like incidentally, like the places where I put it and the people I corresponded with were like really, really sound about it. And I contacted the other artist about this, and we had a good chat. And he was just like, "Nah, it's cool, man. It happens," and vice versa. I think it just so happened at the same time we both found the same sample, which I like to also think great minds think alike. You know, we both thought it sounded good, so.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, they talk a lot about the songwriter being like a conduit for something that exists outside, and I think that's what happens with music. I think music in itself and ideas based around music, some maybe somewhat outside of us and exist in sort of the ether somewhere. Maybe you know, if you're writing it tuned in correctly, you might be able to receive the signal.
yeah. That was a funny moment, and I think in that instance, it could have quite easily. I could have been like, "Oh man, I'm not releasing anything ever again for fear of someone turning around and saying I'm ripping someone else off." And I was like, you know what, I'll do it again. I won't rip someone off, but I'll release again, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, in moments like that, that's where your integrity, and you got to stand behind what you've done, as you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely, yeah.
And believe in your product to bring in the sales spiel. So sticking with the background side of things, I keep going off on tangents here. Challenges. What challenges, like musical challenges, have you had any sort of like major musical challenges you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I would say just learning to accept my own voice coming out the monitors again, recordings of my own voice. It's been because I've always had this thing that said I can't sing, you know. And when you start to believe that you can't sing, your body will not let you sing.
Yeah.
And what I like to believe is that actually everybody's now got, not just like to believe it, you know, there's a couple of documentaries and there's science. Everybody's got a voice. It's learning how to hold your own voice, and how to get behind yourself in a sense as well. So yeah, I mean, I've tried to find my voice, and it's taken me 4 years actually to try and find my voice. I mean, do you remember when we had a little go in the university studios, and I was trying to get vocals right, and it's amazing that we look back. The great thing about taking recordings as well is you can always look back, and what I noticed is I was playing way too hastily back then, and I was tensed up the moments that I ever started singing. So you can't take off. There's nowhere to take off to when you've started all so uptight. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just learning how to sing and learning how to relax and learning how to record my own voice and how to play properly with the guitar and not overpower the playing as opposed to the singing. Let the singing lead. So yeah, I've had a real sort of personal sort of challenge with that one, which has been.
It sounds challenging, man. It's like we touched on earlier about, but you're always your harshest critic, and it's that again, isn't it? And it's very much when you play guitar, and your voice is an instrument, and you tense up. You can't sing. It's like if you play guitar, being a guitarist, you tense up, and I'd always find if I tense up and I play guitar, my technique just goes to pieces, and it affects your performance. But when it comes to singing, I don't profess to have much of a singing, but I do sing every when I'm walking around and I'm shopping and what have you. I like to break into some form of song. But do you think that everybody's got? I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Do you think that everybody could sing if they were properly trained? What are your thoughts?
I would like to believe so. I mean, I'm pretty sure, you know, if you got 300 people, there's going to be the tough fraction, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it was a BBC documentary. He was a musician. He had glasses on, and he was quite a quirky character. And he ran a choir. He turned people who couldn't sing into a full choir that could sing.
I vaguely remember this, but I don't know if I watched it. But I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, and I think because I watched that a couple of times, I thought, you know what? Yeah, and anybody can sing. You know, you've got learning how to hold your diaphragm properly, and then your all this part of structure of your larynx and where you're singing from and all this. And I think that anyone can learn at least to hold a tune.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody is the next Celine Dion or Adele or, you know.
No. Yeah.
You know?
I've toyed with the idea for ages of like having singing lessons, because every now and again I'll do something. I'll be like, you know what, I reckon I could sing, and maybe I'll do it one day. I every now and again as well, I toy with like, think, like, should I try putting vocals on my own tracks? Maybe some sort of like baritone-esque sort of like vocal, maybe with a vocoder or something. Maybe I'll do it at some point. I don't know.
Definitely try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. At the moment, I just farm it out to. It just sounds very blasé, but I farm it out to other people to do who could do a far better job than me.
No, that's it. There's I think a level of a level of trust in that as well. You know, when you're giving up jobs to do within your own musical project and you give that up to somebody else. I mean, that's something I've had to learn about as well, which has been interesting.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting with doing that is, so basically, to those listening, I'll create the bed, so I'll create the track, the instrumental, and then I'll have a concept in my head, generally, of what songs I think sound similar and the sort of style I want, and then I'll put that out there, and then I'll approach vocalists to do it. And it's not until I get that initial vocal come back and hear somebody else's take on the song that it really comes to life. And I remember the first time I did it with, it was Waiting on Your Call when I first sent it out. And then Sophie sent it back with the vocals on. And I was just like, shit, actually, you know what? That sounds really good. And it's an incredible moment, because to begin with, I was just listening to it and I was like, it's just a song I put together on Logic. It's just a load of MIDI and a few samples and stuff. And then it came back and I'm like, wow, man, like you put vocals on it and somebody else's spin. It's somebody else's perspective that really brought the track to life. And it's
absolutely, man. Yeah,
I cannot having that outsider influence, having somebody else. I think that's why when you think about it, I guess when artists go into the studio, they have a producer for that outsider perspective. But I think for anyone listening, if you are ever stuck for ideas, just get somebody else to have a listen to it. Get somebody else to have a listen to it.
100%. Absolutely.
Put forward ideas. Don't sit in your room thinking you have to do it all alone. Get somebody else to have a listen, because that light bulb moment for me was then, and I was just like, shit, have I not done this sooner? You get some interesting ones come back though as well. Some interesting takes. So another key question here: the secret to good music for you. What is the secret for good music? When you hear a song for you? I suppose there are different facets, but what makes it good? It's a tricky question.
It is a tricky question, isn't it? I mean, the first thing that shot in my mind there was a memorable riff, you know, something that was a really good, an iconic start to a song.
Yeah, a hook.
A good hook, the beginning, whatever it is, the beginning, you just know that's the song that's playing, you know, straight away. So a good intro. It's a tough one, that is.
It is, isn't it? It is the secret to. I tell you what, if we knew the secret to good music, we'd probably be all a lot richer. I would imagine, if we knew the secret to good music.
That's it. Yeah, we would. Maybe that's part of the quest of music, you know, because when you hit it, it's like a sweet spot. You know, when that intuition happens, and then that inspiration is flowing, and then the flow state is there.
Yeah,
it's magic, isn't it? You know, but yeah. So
The way I say this is good. The way I test good music, I got to do the inverted commas for those who can't see me. I always do that when I'm teaching as well. I always do that with my hands. I'm like, oh, no one can actually see me, see what I'm doing, or I start pointing or nodding to what someone's saying. And I was like, obviously, no one can see me nod. Where was I going with that? Yeah, it was what I tend to do is if I'm writing something and I'll do the acid test, which is I will play it to my girlfriend and then I'll wait. And if I hear her walking around humming what I've played her like an hour or so later, I'll be like, right, okay, that hook has worked.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't say she's an avid fan of the genre that I work within, or the niche. Or niche, as I find the Americans call it, and I don't know which one's right, man. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff, and I hear a lot of Americans saying niche, and I don't know, it doesn't sound right. Anyway, I don't want to start slating Americans, but yeah, that's the way I test it. And if she's humming it later, I'll be like, okay, that's obviously worked. So I think going back to what you said earlier about a hook, I think a hook is for me that is the sign of a good song.
Yeah. I like songs that make you feel something. You know, I mean, there's so much of what the scene, and in inverted commas, there's so much music which the scene can pump out, which for me will definitely all of it sound the same. Mm-hmm. So I like a song where somebody's individual sort of soul's gone into it, and if you can really feel something from the song. And even more so the whole album. If you can feel something from the whole album these days, I think it's incredible. Yeah,
100%. And I think another thing as well, just adding to that as well, is I often think that the sign of a good song would be like if you can associate it with a particular point in time. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said it. That you raised that point, because like I was thinking earlier on when I was thinking, how am I going to answer the question of, you know, certain questions that we've popped up in here, and I think one of the things that come into my mind was music has always been a part of my life, and it's not one specific genre. It's more periods of my life, and then genres that were very apparent, or iconic songs that were apparent at that time, which has become major influence. And I agree with you totally.
Yeah. Cool, mate. So goals and aims. So what, like, if in like 12 months, next 12 months, what sort of aims do you have musically? Do you have any goals or aims?
Yeah, I mean, I find myself not wanting to talk about a dream anymore. I find myself wanting to make it happen. Like, I've got a single, I'm going to release it. I'm not exactly expecting any miracles at the back of this single, but for me it's been a personal journey and a sort of like a milestone to reach to get that first single out there and get the ball rolling. So I want to say I'm just going to continue to enjoy my space in here. I'm going to experiment with my sound a little bit more. I'm going to try and stretch out of that nice zone that I've created this single in now. I'd like to expand out of that now, because I feel like I've been writing in that zone for the previous 4 years, back end of uni even still. And because I haven't recorded any of it and put it out there to anybody who knows me as a song or follows my pages, it would sound new to them. Yeah. So that's why and I found it to be a good solid foundation to put out there. So just one or two of these style of songs, and then maybe see what happens next, really.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that one. Like, dreams are good, but if you have one big sort of audacious dream, I think you can quite easily think, and you have nothing in between, it can quite easily put you off. But if you have small little milestones that you're just ticking off and doing then eventually it becomes much more attainable.
Absolutely.
That's what I think it is. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. One day I will receive those the Grammys and the Smash Hits Awards and the MTV Awards, one day. But you have to make it real, don't you? So
keep plugging away, man. You got to keep plugging away. You got to keep doing. So really, quite look at the time. So if you had to give advice, say like if you had to give advice to an independent artist, a songwriter just starting out, like what if you had one key piece of advice? What do you think it would be? Yep.
Don't give up in 3 points. Like, don't give up. The next bit is start young.
Mm-hmm.
And the other bit is whilst you're young and you're in your teens and early 20s, you've got a real opportunity there to speak to more people and create a movement in what you're doing. When you get older, that move, I don't know, it's the teenage energy, isn't it? It's the teenage angst energy. You know, what I'm saying is that's something to really understand as a musician and work to your advantage.
Yeah, totally. Because I think once you get to our age and you've experienced life and you have life interfering, you have responsibilities and stuff. But when you're younger, you have that, like you say, that spirit, don't you? To harness that and have that, ride that wave. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, you know, when we look back at the 90s, I mean, for me, like indie pop sounds like the New Radicals and REM. Those type of bands were adults. You know, the lead singers were, you know, they were in the 30s themselves. So, but that's not the kind of music that kids listen to, is it? You know, and I think that's the kind of point I'm making. When you're a youngster and you're making music, really, really go for it. Go hard for it.
Is that the New Radicals? Did they release? I only remember one song from the New Radicals. Am I thinking of the right band? I can't even remember what it's called.
You only get what you give.
That's it. Yeah, and the music video is in like a the music video was in a shopping centre.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you know what we said earlier about associating it with moments in time. I associate that song. Now this is going to sound like really nerdy, but I'm like big into Star Wars, and I used to play Star Wars cards when I was at school, man. And I remember picking up this expansion pack that I'd saved up for, and I got in the car and I opened it, and the new Radicals were playing on the radio. It was like one of the defining moments.
Poignant.
Oh yeah, that was so good. Oh, I sold it. It was really sad. I sold all those when I moved. I wish I hadn't.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh my days! I totally forgot about that up until that moment. But yeah, that pretty much just exemplifies what I said earlier about relating songs with moments in time.
Yeah, that's it.
So I was gonna say to you, like, if you had one song from you to listen to, which one would it be? But I don't know if
that's a difficult. Oh, all right, yeah, it's Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
Queen. I was in it was my very first music lesson that I ever remember, and the teacher said, "Right, everybody, close your eyes. I'm going to play a piece of music, and and see where it goes." And I was off. I was in a complete different world. So yeah, like it's just one of those songs, isn't it? That it takes you through all emotions, and then leaves you back at the start, and with something else.
Did you do music at school? Is it like a GCSE?
I did do music at GCSE. Yeah. I think what that lesson I was on about was, you know, primary school. One of the going back, you know, sort of, it must have been year 2 or 3. I was about 7 or 8.
I think I have these moments where I think back I remember when I was at primary school and we had like our primary school teacher, and I remember a defining moment whereby we were doing PE and she put on the Eurythmics, and it was so weird. We were like listening to the Eurythmics whilst doing PE. Yes. And I think back to it now. I was like, what was that about? But at the same time, I was kind of like, all right, we're listening to Sweet Dreams while doing PE in primary school.
Amazing.
It was so weird. Yeah. Oh, it was
honestly,
so
Annie Lennox was a massive part of my young childhood. Like, and her voice, like, yeah, I could just imagine. Every time I hear, I just imagine my mum like polishing all of her brass collection. That was. Yeah. Listening to Annie Lennox. Oh my god. Big giant bangle earrings and great big hair. The 80s spillover, wasn't it? It was great. I wish I was born in the 80s. I might have been a glam rock star.
You know what? I have this conversation all the time with my mates. We all sit around and we're all into our metal and stuff. And we'll sit there and we'll listen to like Def Leppard, Rat, Warrant, all these bands. Yeah. We're like, man, I wish I was in a band in the 80s. Probably wouldn't be any different, but Christ, I don't know. It would have been so much fun. Yeah, definitely the wrong era.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I suppose it's a similar question to what I asked about just now about Bohemian Rhapsody. But if you could only listen to one more song, for the remainder of your existence, what song?
I thought thought that question was a record. You see, you know, like an
All right,
album.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, let's switch out. Let's go record. That way it makes it a bit easier.
It's a little bit different. It would be Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. When I was a kid, you know, like my mum's rocker stoner days, and when I was those people, that album was just because the way that some of the music breaks out from the ethereal, and then it goes right into that great big wall of sound, power rock. It's sort of like, whoa, for me, gets me every single time. So if I wanted one album which had everything in there for me in a full album, it would be that. And also, I absolutely love the politically charged narrative throughout the album. It's incredible. And when you grow older and you look back on it and you see it, I just think it's an absolute masterpiece of art. It's incredible music.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Did you ever see the video of where Roger Waters is playing? Because obviously he did his tour. I think it was called The Wall. And then Dave Gilmour just randomly suddenly appears at the top of the wall during his performance. Have you seen that on YouTube?
No.
You should check that out. That's quite. I'm fairly certain it's during Comfortably Numb, and he just appears out of nowhere for the solo for Comfortably Numb, and it is worth a watch. It is so good. You got Roger Waters, and he's just like banging on this wall, and then suddenly Dave Gilmour just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, I will do. So, just in the middle of typing it in now. So, good. I look for that.
Yeah, it is good. That's about it, mate. I don't know if you've got anything. If you want any, what I'm going to do is I'll put the links into like your social media and stuff anyway into the bottom of the podcast. But
sure, thanks.
I don't suppose you've got any key dates or anything coming up for releases. I suppose it's all very fluid.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just had a conversation with my one of the guys who's helping me put some content together there, and he said he was entirely up to me, and I because it is, I think I'd like to keep it fluid, so I'd just say some late February.
Cool.
Yeah, late February. It's pretty much there almost, but you know, when you want it, you know, you don't want to rush. It's all about pulling that promo material together now, and I think I've
forgotten how long that takes.
I know, right? This is it. You see.
It's a longer process. Well, what we'll do is, mate, it'd be quite cool to catch up later on in the year and see how it's all gone.
Sure.
That'd be great. Yeah. That's pretty much it. So, as I say, links, etc., I'll put into the social media at the bottom. But yeah, cheers for chatting today, mate. It's been great. It's been good to catch up. It's always good to talk about music.
Thank you very much for having me on, Mark.
No worries, man.
I'll see you again soon.
I'll catch you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
See you, mate. And there we have it. That is the end of episode 2. A huge thank you to Tony Fitz for dropping by. Keep an eye out for Fitz's releases. Social media links are available in the episode description. I hope you were able to take something away from this episode, and please do leave a comment or review. The main way to improve is through your feedback. And please do subscribe at the same time. If you would like to know more about me as producer, mix and mastering engineer, please do visit my website, markmatthewsproducer.com, or reach out via Facebook and Instagram. A website and social media links are provided in the episode description. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and look out for episode 3, which will drop in 2 weeks, Tuesday, 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Once again, thanks for listening.